Have you ever wondered why the methods that worked when you were younger just don't cut it anymore? Like running with a younger run club, training every day without any rest, or skipping strength training entirely. Why am I getting slower, you ask yourself, after almost every single run these days? You might think that the answer is to train harder and log more miles. But what if that is not the solution? Or what if you're making critical mistakes that's holding you back? In this video, we dive into the pitfalls that might be sabotaging your progress as a female runner over the age of 45, and why these common errors are actually a big deal.
Having coached thousands of female athletes over the age of 45 over the past 20 years, I can say that the biggest mistake that female runners make is that they just don't train the right way. What I mean by that is they are stuck in the way that they used to train and are making the same mistakes over and over, but as we get older, we get punished more for those mistakes. So let's dive into what that means. You're training the same way you always trained, but the results that you're getting aren't the same. And so that typically leads into an even bigger mistake. People go, right, I'm getting older, so perhaps what I need to do is just to work that little bit harder to overcome that weakness that I've now got from getting slower and getting older. And that actually has the opposite impact. Very few runners do strength training. That's another huge mistake that you are making in your training, and you really need to do the strength training. And then probably the biggest training mistake that most people make, and it happens for quite a few reasons, but that is not doing your training sessions at the right intensities. And in particular, you are running your easy runs too hard. Now that might also just be happening because of the environment that you're in. So we tend to stay running in groups, and we're often trying to keep up with the younger runners. And when we're keeping up with the younger runners, that ultimately means that you are running too hard on your easy runs. If you run too hard on your easy runs, it means you can't do your fast runs properly. It also means that you rock up tired every day. You just don't seem to be able to get out of that rut and improve your running. And finally, where you're really doing it wrong and exacerbating all the mistakes is not allowing enough time for recovery. You probably made that mistake when you were younger too, but your body was more forgiving. So you really need to prioritize recovery as you get older.
Now you're probably starting to think to yourself, but am I really making these mistakes? Well, to help me answer that question, I'm going to tell you a quick story about one of my one-on-one clients. This lady is in her early 60s. She came to me complaining about always being fatigued, always being tired, but she absolutely loves running. Long story short, made a couple of changes just to the structure of her training, really focusing a little bit more on the recovery and her paces. And almost immediately, she reported that she was feeling a lot better before every training session, especially those long runs. Over time, we then started to see that her paces were gradually improving, and recently she's just run a marathon PB after not running a marathon for the last 6 years. So why are these mistakes? As we get older, it becomes more difficult to stay at the sharp end of our running. Our race times get slower, and we often pick up more injuries and illness. Shona's going to dive a little bit deeper into why this happens, especially for female runners.
Reason number one is due to fluctuating hormones that eventually go into absolute decline. Through menopause, we no longer have a cyclic action of how our hormones work, and as a result, when they are fluctuating, our normal hormonal balance is out of whack, and eventually those hormones flatline completely. Reason number two is due to a lack of focused strength training, plyometric or power training, as well as a lack of neuromuscular training, including skills and drills. Reason number three is due to a lack of structured running program, including perhaps too many intervals or too few long runs overall. Reason number four, and this is a biggie, is due to a lack of adequate rest and recovery within your training plans. The second last reason is poor quality sleep and not enough sleep. And the last one, which I know affects a lot of menopausal runners, is managing your weight.
So how can you recognize if you are making these mistakes? Well, the first step is that you're going to see that your race times are getting slower and slower. You're probably also starting to struggle to keep up with that younger running group that you've been trying to train with. You might be stuck in a persistent injury cycle where you keep getting the same injuries over and over again, or getting repetitive cycles of getting sick all the time. And you're probably experiencing this, and that is that you are feeling tired and perhaps even a little sore whenever you train. Those are all signs that you need to be doing something differently.
There are 6 things that you should be focusing on in order to avoid these mistakes. The 5th one is something that I can personally help you with here at Coach Perry. Let's start with number 1. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, and the importance of rest and recovery within your training. This includes getting good sleep to ensure that you are recovering from all the exercise that you are doing, because we don't get the benefit of that exercise unless we rest and recover. The second one, which is a big mistake that I see female runners over the age of 45 making, is that they are not running their easy and their long runs easy enough. This isn't to say that you only do easy runs. We work on an 80-20 principle. 80% of your training runs need to be done easy so that they feel easy, and 20% of your runs are done at a higher intensity. This may vary according to age and ability. The third one is strength training. More importantly is the type of strength training, and we mean resistance training. Number 4 really requires you to change your mind and your thoughts around a little bit, but it's about training for where you are now. We always try to compare ourselves and our times to where we were, but we really need to train for where we are now physiologically so we can build on that. Number 5, which is the one that I can help you with, and this is structured training plans. You want to follow a plan that is structured, that has scientific and evidence-based theory behind it, so that you are getting the most out of your training, that you're managing your loads, that you're getting the recovery and rest when you need it, and that you're pushing at the right times as well. The next one is using good nutritional principles to enhance your training and performance. Use nutrition as your superpower to enhance your training by fueling your training before, during, and after, so that you also can maximize your recovery. Speaking of nutrition, if you'd like to discover the surprising truth about menopausal weight gain, spoiler alert, it's not just about hormones. Watch this video to learn how lifestyle choices can play a crucial role and uncover effective strategies to help you manage weight during menopause.